an hour full of wisdom that we'll gather along the way. As we start the program, I'd like to first invite our Mandir President, Mr. Mukesh Bhai Vani. If you'd like to be here, just quickly welcome all the participants, and then we'll start with a quick introduction of Amiji.
Thank you, Abhishek, and good morning, everyone. Welcome to the DFW Hindu Temple. I'd like to invite Ms. Amiji as well for coming to the temple and giving what hopefully will be a very insightful talk on the subject of why we worship. Some of our
Need to read Ramayana and Mahabharata.
Why we need to read Ramayana and Mahabharata, our epics. So thank you again for coming to the temple, and welcome all to this program.
Thank you, Mukesh Bhai. Maybe we can close one of the doors. I'm sure that Amiji is no stranger to most of us. Everybody I speak to, I always hear that, oh, we've been following her podcast, and she's such a brand name in our Hindu scholarly system. So just a quick introduction in case some of us have not known. So Amiji is an alumna of IIM Ahmedabad and VJTI, which is Veer Mata Jijabai Technological Institute. Over 15 years of experience in business strategy and consulting, and living in many continents. She ultimately decided to pursue a path of Indian knowledge systems, which is the need of the hour. We all have only had so limited information about our own knowledge systems. We've been all victims of Western Indology, to say it simply, and it's time for us to truly take true Indology in our own hands. So just a little more about Amiji. She's a yoga practitioner, a certified instructor as well, I understand. She's also a student of Sanskrit and a torchbearer for Indian knowledge systems now. She's authored of late in the last few years books, which she started with the Mahabharata Unraveled 1, then the Ramayana Unraveled, and very recently she's also delivered the Mahabharata Unraveled 2. Right, so we'll probably get to hear what were the driving factors about continuing the Mahabharata Unraveled journey further. Her books are not retellings of reimaginations, but an attempt to go through to go back to the original Itihasa and present it as the true history, not just a story. So without further ado, I would like to invite upon Amiji. Maybe we should extend a warm welcome to her. You can take it forward. Yep.
Suprabhatam, Jai Shri Ram.
Jai Shri Ram.
Jai Jai Shri Ram.
Jai Jai Shri Ram.
Khub Abhar to the Mandir, to Abhishek ji, to Gaur ji for making this happen. This is my last leg of the US trip. I'm literally going back to India on Wednesday. And they said, Subha bhi hai to aa jao. And they are making it happen. So thank you so much. And to see Sunday, I was actually very skeptical. I said, हमारे में कौन आता है 10 बजे सुबह है ना, और वो भी ऐसे चीज़ों के लिए. But all of you have turned up, so thank you so much. The relevance of Itihasa. अच्छा, उसके पहले I switch between English Hindi. Is that fine with everybody? If not, I can stick only to English. So you tell me, जैसे भी. चलेगा ना? I'll keep switching. तो वो flow में आ जाता है. It's more English or whatever. Okay. So why Itihasa? Why should we study Itihasa? People ask me, what was it? What was your driving factor? To be very honest, I have no glamorous story about it. I just had a lot of questions. A lot of questions which probably today all our youngsters are having, probably we had at some point in time. Things like, why should we worship Shri Ram? If you go by the popular understanding, हमको क्या कहा जाता है? Follow, I mean learn from Shri Ram, but be Shri Krishna. कलयुग में कृष्ण नीति चलती है, right? Shri Ram is very rigid for Kalyug. That's what we are told, by and large. Then there will be things like Shri Ram wasn't fair to Sita at all. And today, I have heard this in US. This is a real example that I'm quoting. A family, very well rooted family, जैसे आपके बच्चे आते हैं मंदिर में, बहुत अच्छा है. It's already so good for me to see the work that is happening, the sanskaras that are being instilled in the children. But you know what? It is still not enough, because this family, very rooted in the US, Chinmay, Mission, बच्चे गए हैं, everything. Children, 2 girls, they go to university, take a course on Indology, Hinduism. Ram Navami aati hai, the girls are 18, and they're like, we don't agree with the value system of Ram. He's not our God. We will not worship him. And the parents are like, but why? You've been worshipping him all this while. They're like, no, he's a misogynist. We don't agree with him. Now the question is, aren't the girls right? If actually the values of some of our heroes are not valid today, then why should we worship them? Just because of our attachment, or just because of some nostalgia? Or is there something worthwhile to them? Is the question. Now this question which the girl asked is something I keep getting asked all the time. Because I'm told, what is our history? और पहली बात तो history है क्या, है ही नहीं. Why? Because you have 300 Ramayans. What Itihas? For Itihas, if you're claiming it is history, forget proofs and all that, there has to be one source of truth, na? How can one thing be true? How can there be multiple versions of truth? Simple. Lakshman Rekha. Okay. Valmiki says, Valmiki doesn't mention any Rekha. Other versions mention Rekha. What is the truth? If every version is equally valid, what is the truth? This is actually not even that big a deal, but see how the children will think, right? Something that we have nicely accepted. What is the truth? If one version says line hai, दूसरा version says line नहीं है, and we say सब चलेगा, तो फिर clearly some बच्चा who is thinking about this more logically and who does not have, जिसमें अभी वो श्रद्धा इतनी दृढ़ नहीं हुई है, how are you going to convince him? Right? I have had girls come up to me and say, ma'am, everything is fine, but you please explain to us how have we been fair to Ahalya? So many girls come up and ask me this. The story goes, Ahalya was not even wrong, she got cheated, and she was the one who gets punished and she gets cursed to become a stone, right? And again, we have Shraddha and Shri Ram. So we see it as bhaktas, he comes, he touches her stone, and unka uddhar ho jata hai. Such a lovely story. The charan sparsha of the Bhagwan himself. But a girl who does not have the Shraddha, can you see how she is seeing this story? A lady who is not at fault, a lady who is cheated. In spite of being cheated, the husband gives up on her and curses her for absolutely no fault of hers. And a 16-year-old guy comes and touches her, his feet to her. हमको कोई ऐसे पाँव मारेगा तो चलेगा क्या? I'm saying I'm not saying right or wrong. ठीक है? I'm just saying how is this perceived and how girls have come up to me and asked questions. They're like, ma'am, how is it fair? What uddhar? She was punished only unfairly. Then what uddhar are you talking about? What is the answer for all these questions? And if after this, the girls or boys are saying, yaar, what are you asking me to worship? I don't even agree with all this, yaar. Aaj ke liye you're telling me to worship. So, kahin pe to I had mentioned about this. I hadn't actually told the story yet. But when I said this, then a parent told me, ma'am, you're right. My girls were also asking me these questions. And I told them that whatever Shri Ram did was right for his time. We don't have to judge him today. He was right for his time. Today it may not be right, but that time it was right. That hence we should worship him. I said, sir, can you hear yourself? You have told your daughters he was wrong. He is wrong today. If he is wrong today, why should you worship him? Again, think about it. Why would you worship somebody whose value systems you are not aligned with? Now, why am I telling you all this? Not to make you go back and question Shri Ram. Or actually, these questions should come very honestly. I had all these questions. That is why, when Abhishek ji mentioned, my first book is Mahabharata. Okay, not Ramayana. Ramayana is much smaller. But my first book is Mahabharata. Because I was like, Shri Ram, not appealing enough, not inspiring enough. Because what are you used to thinking? The television serials that you've seen, right? Mahabharata was fun because why? Krishna is going, taking shortcuts, breaking rules as we are told. Krishna Niti is for Kaliyug, we are told. Just say Krishna is all just waiting to break rules. And Shri Ram is not doing anything. Right is right, left is wrong, left is left, kuch bhi ho jaye. This is the view. I also had the same understanding. But even for Mahabharata, when you ask people, what does Mahabharata say? 99% will tell you, for Mahabharata, there is nothing like right or wrong. It is all grey. It is everybody's perspective. Right or wrong is everybody's perspective. Good people were bad people were good. Pandavas were so good, but see, they kept breaking all rules. Duryodhan was so bad, but in the war, he did not break any rules. ऐसा बातें करते हैं. So, dharma, adharma क्या है? It's all grey. So, if it is all grey, and dharma, adharma कुछ नहीं है, then what is the anchor for our children? How do we tell them this is the right thing to do, this is not the right thing to do? If we say everything is only perspectives, and if that is the case, if our dharma is all about no right or wrong, all perspectives, everybody is right in their own way, then if our children are getting confused and saying, I can't relate to it, who is to be blamed? Are they to be blamed? Everybody is quiet.
Waiting.
So to be very honest, I had all these questions. But I have been a bit of a ghisu from childhood. Okay. So I'm like, no, this can't be. I'm not satisfied with answers. Okay. I just need to know more. How can our rishis be so confused here? Right? Kuch to hoega. Ours can't be a samaj which is only doing jativad. It is only doing stri dvesh. Can't be, na? Itna kaise hoga? How is it that we've survived for so long? Right? Revolutions happen, yeah, if it is all about discrimination and injustice and all that. Something is just not right. So I ended up reading a lot of fiction, a lot of discussions happened. Even in my B school, we used to have a course where we read Yuganta, which is a book on Mahabharata. Again, same thing. Why is Dharmaraj called Dharmaraj? Just because Vedvyas ji had a bias. Not because there was anything dharmic in him. Because dharmic hote to wife ko kyun stick kar dete? Right? Then you have YouTubers and reels banane wale who will say Krishna is worshipped because Pandavas won. Otherwise, you would be worshipping Shakuni. Yeah? This is all strategy. There is no value system here. It is all a power game. And I'm like, it can't be. This is not making sense because the people who composed this were not ordinary people. We call them rishis. There is a sanctity to the term, right? So what is it? So then fiction padha again, koi kuch bol raha hai, koi kuch bol raha hai, koi iske perspective se koi bol raha hai, koi iske perspective se bol raha hai. And I'm like, अच्छा, ये बोल रहा है द्रौपदी's perspective, वो बोल रहा है कर्ण's perspective. इनको कैसा मालूम perspective? क्या द्रौपदी ने आके इनको बताया कि मेरा perspective ये है? क्या कर्ण ने उनको बताया कि मेरा perspective वो है? Which means this is not Draupadi's or Karna's perspective. This is the author's perspective, which they are passing off as uska perspective and uska perspective, right? This is just the author's view. Then how do I trust? Then what should I trust? We say there are 300 Ramayans. Most people dismiss that this is not history because there are 300 Ramayans. But you know the beauty of those 300 Ramayans? All the Kavis, who do they refer to? Who do they do naman to? As an inspiration for their retelling. All of them give credit to Valmiki ji. Is there a confusion which is the original? Then, anybody claiming no Valmiki, I am the first one to write. Of course, आजकल आपने वो स्टोरी सुना होगा. किसने लिखा सबसे पहला महाभारत, पहला रामायण?
हनुमान जी.
हनुमान जी ने लिखा. ठीक है, दिस इज द स्टोरी आई हर्ड. फिर हनुमान जी ने क्या किया? उसको पानी में फेंक दिया. यू नो व्हाई? बिकॉज वाल्मीकि जी थॉट कि अरे हनुमान जी's रामायण is way better than mine. So he got upset. Okay. So to keep Valmiki ji happy, Hanuman ji threw his Ramayana in the Nadi. This is the story. And people say, अरे वाह, हनुमान जी का आप स्टेचर देखो. He didn't care for credit. He cared for the feelings of Valmiki ji. Now my question to you are two. What does it tell us about Valmiki ji? ऐसा जल कुकड़े थे वो. Right? He was such a jal kukda that what he cared for was his version of Ramayana, not the actual Ramayana, which was apparently better. He made it to be discarded. Right? Do you believe Valmiki ji had that personality? The second question, लिखा कैसे? Then you are saying अभी अभी हुआ है. Right? अगर लिखा है तो अभी अभी हुआ है. कैसे लिखा? और अगर लिखा नहीं और ओरल था तो फेंका क्या? But you know what? Why don't we ask these questions? Because we're like, अरे नहीं, हनुमान जी कितने महान हैं. Singular thought process. Our bachas are not buying that. So when you hear such YouTube stories, no, untold. It is untold because it is not there. Always remember. Okay. Anyways, now coming back to the journey, my journey that I was talking about. So I had all these questions. I mean, yeah, this is not making sense. Fiction padha, no answers. I said, okay, let me go back to what is considered the original. So when I started the journey, I didn't even know original क्या है, fiction क्या है, retelling क्या है. ये सब कुछ नहीं मालूम था. It was a process. ठीक है. So eventually I'm like, नहीं, if I want to study, I should go back to the original. And I picked up Mahabharata because that was fun. And I was also learning Sanskrit साथ साथ में. So Gita Press का हिंदी संस्कृत वाला जो है, that I picked up. And as I read, it was almost as if the answers, the questions dissolved. Because the questions existed due to my ignorance of what's going on in there. Rather than the actual questions. As if I had those questions because I didn't know, which I thought I knew. Okay? I thought I knew. But there is no confusion about right and wrong in Mahabharata. There is no confusion about heroes and non-heroes. There is no confusion why someone is being dealt with the way the person is being dealt with. And no, it is not all grey. We are very clear about what is dharma and what is adharma. Absolutely clear. So when this happened with Mahabharata, I was like, yeah, is it possible that I have not understood Shri Ram and Ramayana also? And I picked up Valmiki Ramayana. And when I picked up Valmiki Ramayana, of course, Mahabharata Unraveled is my first book. Mahabharata will always be special to me. It is mind-bogglingly interesting and deep and profound. But my second book, Ramayana Unraveled, personally has been a more emotionally enriching process. And while my study of the Ramayana, I became very, very angry. I was angry at the Hindu Samaj. हम लोग जय श्री राम के नारे तो लगाते हैं. But we've not even bothered to understand the man here. We've not even bothered to see where he's coming from. We've not even bothered to go back and check whether all the narrative being peddled about him is right or not. Now, let me tell you the story of Ahalya. We'll start with that. Everybody knows Ahalya was a pathar, right? And she didn't know. She was being cheated. Let me tell you the story as it comes in Valmiki Ramayana. So Valmiki Ramayana में कैसे होता है? Shri Ram is taken by Vishwamitra ji, Shri Ram and Lakshman, to Siddhashram to protect the yagna and all that, we know. Then from there they are going to Mithila for वहाँ पे Janak is going to conduct some yagna for the Shiva Dhanush and all that. So the two kids, the Shishyas of Vishwamitra ji, वो सब मिथिला जा रहे हैं. तो मिथिला के बाहर they see a very desolate, isolated ashram. It's a nice ashram but very isolated. So Shri Ram wants to know कि ये किसका आश्रम है. Vishwamitra ji says, this is the ashram, now see the words used. This is the ashram of the Deva Rupini Ahalya. She has been doing tapasya here. So they want to know who is Ahalya. So Vishwamitra ji then tells them the entire story. Gautam, Rishi Gautam and Ahalya, they are a couple, they have children, all that, happy couple. Okay, Ahalya is extremely good looking. So we are told that Indra gets attracted to Ahalya. Okay, so one day when Gautam Rishi is not around, Indra comes. He is dressed as a Muni. Muni Vesha, he comes as a Muni. Ahalya knows that this is Indra. Sahastraksham Vignaya Mati Chakara Durvedhe Devaraja Kautuhalat. She knows this is Indra. But what happens? Such a powerful man desires me. Mati Chakara Durvedhe. There is a lapse of judgment on her part. Why? She gets excited. Such a powerful man, he desires me. Just imagine if somebody comes and tells you, Deepika Padukone likes you. Sara fidelity, loyalty jayega na kachre mein. It's just human psychology, right? So there is a lapse of judgment on her part. She knows this is Indra. She gets excited knowing that somebody like Devaraja, such a powerful man, has desired her. And she consents to have a relationship. She consents to have a relationship, knowing fully well that she is not being loyal to her husband. Gautam Rishi comes, he gets to know what is going on. Acha, uske pehle, Ahalya tells Indra, now you go, Shigram Gacha, go away fast and protect me and yourself from Gautam. In that time, Gautam Rishi comes. He sees what has happened. You know what he does? Sabse pehle? He punishes Indra. He says, you tried to deceive my wife. You tried to lure my wife. You will become a Napunsaka. That is what he's told. Okay, and then there is this thing that his balls fall off and stuff, and the new balls have to be given, whatever. He's first punished. And to Ahalya, he says, you stay here and do tapasya, do prashchit, nirahara, vata bhaksha, doing upvasa, you stay here and do tapasya. Finally, when Ram comes, your tapasya would have ended and I will come back. Okay, then Vishwamitra says, come in. This is that Deva Rupini Yashasvini Ahalya. Come and see her. So when Lakshman and Shri Ram, they go inside, you know what they see? There is no Patharvathar. There is Ahalya sitting in her aura because she's done tapasya for so long. See, she's shining in her aura. Ram and Lakshman, what do? Tasyaha Padau Jagrahatu. They go and fall at her feet. And that's when Ahalya gets up and hosts them. He's not touching his foot to the stone. She's a Rishika by that time. She's a Tapasvini. She has achieved that status. And Ram and Lakshman touch her feet and get her blessings. Vishwamitra, interestingly, is telling this story. Do you know the story of Vishwamitra? He actually can relate to Ahalya. There is a reason he's calling her Yashasvini Deva Rupini. Vishwamitra was not Vishwamitra to begin with. He was a Raja named Kaushik. There was a tussle with Rishi Vasishtha. Okay, I'm not getting into the story pura, but there's a tussle with Rishi Vasishtha. Kaushik, Raja at that time, he believes that he tries to defeat Vasishtha. He is not able to, and he thinks this is because of the Brahma Bala of Vasishtha. So he wants that Brahma Bala, and he starts doing tapasya for that Brahma Bala. Okay. So as he is doing tapasya, he is reaching various stages of siddhi. Okay. But at every stage, he falls. First time, it is because of some matsarya bhav. There is anyways, detail which I'm going to pass now, but there are different places. Once, he falls because of his jealousy. He's trying to show himself to be better than Vasishtha. Okay. His tapasya gets wasted. Again he starts. Again Brahmadev comes and says, now you've become a Maharishi. He's like, I don't want to become a Maharishi, I want to become a Brahmarishi. Brahmaji says, not there. You've not achieved control over your senses yet. Again he does tapasya. Menaka comes. Okay, he gets lured. He forgets about his tapasya, gets attracted to Menaka. Okay. After a few years, he realizes, Arey, kya ho gaya? All my tapasya has gone for a toss. So he tells Menaka to go away. First time, no control over jealousy. Then he controls it. Second time, no control over lust. He controls it. Third time, Rambha is sent to lure him. Okay. This time, he's achieved control over his kama. So he knows that this Rambha has been sent to lure me. So he gets very angry and he curses Rambha. Only to realize, Arre baap re. Back to square one. Why? No control over krodha. Kama, krodha, lobha, moha, mad, matsarya, the shada ripus, the vrittis which lead to our downfall. Finally, he starts tapasya again, achieves control over his krodha. Again he is tested. Indra comes as a rishi. So he's done tapasya many years without eating. Okay, upvas karke tapasya kiya hai. He finishes his anushthan after many years, makes prasad to eat. Imagine, kitna din se kuch nahi khaya. Indra comes as a rishi, and when Atithi comes, you don't deny them food, right? So whatever prasad has been made, the Atithi consumes it. And they are thinking, let's see what Vishwamitra does. He remains shanta. Shanta. He very happily gives away his prasada and goes back to his dhyana. That's when Brahmaji comes again and says, now you are a Brahma Rishi. You've achieved complete control over your kama, krodha, lobha, moha, mad, matsarya, over all your senses. Now you're a Brahma Rishi. Vishwamitra says, आपके कहने से नहीं मानूंगा. अगर वशिष्ठ कहेंगे तो ही मानूंगा. So Vashishji comes and he says, yes, you are a Brahma Rishi. So why was he doing the tapasya to become a Brahma Rishi? To take revenge. But when he reaches that stage, after all the falls, the revenge is not there anymore. So if Vishwamitra can get so many chances and become a Rishi, Ahalya क्यों नहीं हो सकती? Mistakes happen, yaar. We are humans. We have all these evolutionary tendencies of Kam, Krodha, Lobha, Moha, Mad, Matsarya. The issue is not that we can make mistakes. Mistakes hota hai. The point is, what do you do after you make that mistake? Do you acknowledge it and work to ensure that never happens again? That is the prashchit. That is the tapasya. If a man can get rishihood by going through that path, a woman can get too. This story is about empowerment. This story is about controlling your life. This story is about transformation after a fall. And what have we made it? Just imagine. Now you hear this story and you hear the Pathar story. Does this story talk about misogyny? Does this story make you question why this has happened? What does this story do, in fact? What does this tell you about the worldview that we Bharatiyas come from? But we are not told the story. Imagine, I'm not making this up. This is in Valmiki Ramayana. This is the story in Valmiki Ramayana. But we are never told about it. We are only told पत्थर पत्थर का उद्धार, पत्थर पत्थर का उद्धार. भाई सोचते नहीं है ना. हमको लगता है हाँ हो गया, इसमें राम जी का बड़प्पन दिख गया. As a bhakta, it's fine. When there was no challenge, ठीक है, श्रद्धा है, आप मानो जो भी. I have nothing against anybody's श्रद्धा. But श्रद्धा होकर भी, isn't the second story that I told you, actual Ahalya story from Valmiki Ramayana, doesn't it have more lessons for us? That is why you should read Itihasa. Just one story. Ideally, this should be enough to convince you. Because most questions I had got solved only by reading. Because this is how it is. And the same thing goes on for many such questions. Mahabharata का युद्ध क्यों हुआ? Why did the Mahabharata युद्ध happen? What did Draupadi say? Andhe ka putra andha, right? That is why the Mahabharata Yuddha happened. So what is our learning from the episode?
बॉडी शेमिंग नहीं करो,
हाँ
बॉडी शेमिंग मत करो.
बॉडी शेमिंग, हाँ ओके ठीक है, बॉडी शेमिंग मत करो. व्हाट एल्स? यस, बेसिकली कंट्रोल योर टंग. एंड द अदर टेक अवे, व्हाट विल मोस्टली पीपल टेक अवे? लड़कियों पे भरोसा मत करो, राइट? Unfortunately, a lot of women tell me this. Why? Because पता है, there is another saying in our समाज. युद्ध क्यों होता है? जर जोरू जमीन, राइट? जोरू मिल गई इसमें, तो जोरू भी डाल दिया. अच्छा, again, we don't think. That is the issue here. We don't think. Why don't we think? I don't know, but we don't think. Because the immediate question that should be asked. Forget अंधे का पुत्र अंधा. Let's assume she said it. Okay, let's assume she said it. Lakshya Graha क्यों हुआ? She was not even there in the picture when Duryodhan tried to burn alive the Pandavas with their mother. She was not there at that time. So was Draupadi responsible for the hatred? They had tried before also, na? Draupadi तो आई बाद में. Then how can she be responsible? And she's actually not at all responsible because there is nothing like Andhe ka Putra Andha in Mahabharata. It is just the masala. There is no Andhe ka Putra Andha in Mahabharata, nor does Draupadi say it, nor does anyone else say it. They say Bhim or somebody laughed. Arey, apan bhi girenge. If I fall down, all of you will also laugh here. So am I allowed to go and bomb you? Right? So again, I do, in my talks, I do a lot of debunking of B.R. Shubra Mahabharata. But you know what? I'm also extremely grateful to him. I'm extremely grateful to him. Why?
Popularize.
Exactly. And you know what? There's another thing. So when I wrote Mahabharata Unraveled, I was not aware of this, but there is such a widespread belief about Mahabharata. कितनों के घर पे महाभारत है? अरे वाह, very nice. Because I'm usually asked, ma'am, you say talk about Mahabharata, read Mahabharata, but महाभारत को तो घर पे नहीं रखना चाहिए. महाभारत घर पे रखोगे तो क्या हो जाएगा? महाभारत. अच्छा, आप सोचो, Mahabharata is called the Dharma Shastra. Okay, Mahabharata is called the Pancham Ved. In the Adi Parva of Mahabharata, we are told the Falashruti of Mahabharata, of studying Mahabharata. And we are told that the one who wants to be successful, who wants to live a dharmic life, who wants to have children, to be successful, yashasvi, dharmic and all that, they should all do Parayana of Mahabharata. That is what we are told. But what did we do? We smart Indians, Hindus, we made Mahabharata gali. Mahabharata घर पे रखो तो महाभारत हो जाएगा. Klesh is equal to Mahabharata. Right? This is what we did. And then what do? We have not studied our Shastras because of Britishers, because of Mughals. देखो उनको तुम blame कर दो अपने को छोड़ के. Did the Britishers come and tell us, अरे महाभारत घर पे रखोगे तो महाभारत हो जाएगा? Because of which we stopped studying our Shastras. And we relied on everybody else to tell us our Shastras, to tell us whether it is Itihasa or mythology, to tell us whether we are a misogynist Samaj or not. Right? And they are telling us. They're telling our children. We have no answers for our children. Because when they ask, what do? अपने को तो मालूम नहीं है ना. We say all these घसी पिटी known stories only. And then again we go and blame Britishers and be happy about it. Tweet कर दिया, अरे Britishers ने ऐसे किया. Cultural appropriation, फलाना ढिकाना. What are we doing? तो महाभारत का युद्ध क्यों हुआ? जी. Thank you for bringing it up. Another hud bakwas story. Again, think. No, I'm glad this is brought up. Again, think, because आजकल ना there is this epidemic of talking about Mahabharata. Every single person goes and talks about Mahabharata, and I can assure you, 99.99 people, percentage people who talk about Mahabharata have not opened a page of Mahabharata. All your favorite YouTubers included in that. Shakuni story. सबसे पहले तो शकुनी तो लिम्प करते थे, राइट? लिम्पिंग क्यों करते थे? There is no limping of Shakuni in Mahabharata. You know what happened? Goofy Pandal hurt his leg. Okay, during the filming. They thought this is going well with the Patra. So they continued it. And now every Mahabharata after that has Goofy Panther limping. Not Goofy Panther, sorry, Shakuni limping. And now there are stories about why he's limping. Oh my god! This one which Sir hinted to, I'll tell you that story. So they say Bhishma wanted Gandhari to marry the blind son, the blind person, right? Dhritarashtra. Shakuni was very angry. His father was also very angry. So they, ठीक है चलो शादी तो करा दिया. Of course, Shakuni was not happy. But then you know what happened? Gandhari was mangling. Okay, Gandhari was mangling. And वो मंगल ये निकालने के लिए किसी बकरी से उसका शादी कराया था पहले. Apparently, according to these storytellers, this was not communicated to Bhishma. So Bhishma becomes very angry कि हमको बताया नहीं कि लड़की मांगलिक है. ठीक है? So he captures his entire family. We are told Shakuni has 100 brothers and his father. They are all captured and they are put in the jail. And God knows Gandhari क्या कर रही थी उससे. ठीक है? This should be our reaction when we hear these stories. Very frankly. So the story goes that they are all in captivity, okay, and all of them, Bhishma gives one grain of rice. Okay, only 1 grain of rice, so nobody can survive. So they all decide that we have to take revenge against this Bhishma. So what they do? They collect the 100 rice grains and they feed the 100 grains to Shakuni. Okay, and they all die of starvation, obviously. Now, this person has to remember the revenge, no? So what he does, अपने पिताजी का जो हड्डी है, ठीक है, उसका पासे बना देता है और उसका कुछ डैगर बना के खुद के पैर पे मार देता है. To remind him that he has to take revenge. सोचो, Goofy Panther का injury has taken us where? A whole new history has been created for Shakuni taking revenge. Acha, now tell me something. Just think about it. 99 brothers and fathers have died. Why did Bhishma, if he was anyway so cruel कि मांगलिक लड़की के लिए सबको मार दिया, why did he let Shakuni go away? If he was that powerful, ना धृतराष्ट्र का कुछ नहीं चलता था, पांडु का कुछ नहीं चलता था, गांधारी का कुछ नहीं चलता था, and Gandhari had no problems all this while. वैसे her entire family was getting killed. सब मस्त चल रहा था. ना ही दुर्योधन को प्रॉब्लम आया. नहीं तो who should be angry कि मेरे पूरे नाना का परिवार खत्म कर दिया? No, no. But we don't think. We love these stories. Actually, oh, Shakuni, strategy, da 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 da. That is why there then such assumptions, such inferences come. That महाभारत क्यों हुआ? शकुनी के कारण. और अगर दुर्योधन जीत जाता तो क्या होता? Shakuni would be Krishna. We would be worshipping Shakuni. This is literally what is being taught and communicated, and we lap it up. Look at the guy who talks about, oh, look at the guys who talk about it. They have lakhs and lakhs and lakhs of views.
This story became very famous in Hyderabad.
I know.
Because Itihasa made a film.
Yes.
In the first 15 minutes, somebody wants to see
Correct.
Mr. Pandavia. 15 minutes, this is the whole story.
Exactly. A lot of these myths have been created by southern film industry, including Karna's so much glorification. Of course, there is Sahitya on it. Then there are movies which take some random story narrated somewhere. Why? Because see, movies need masala. And what is a masala? A bad guy does bad things for a good reason. Right? It's easy to justify. Because if we do bad things, how do we get out of this guilt? अच्छे कारण के लिए किया. बुरा किया पर अच्छे कारण के लिए किया. इसीलिए see this whole tendency to glorify terrorists here. बेचारा स्कूल मास्टर का बेटा था. अरे स्कूल मास्टर का बेटा था तो क्या? मार दो. That gives you the justification. कितने हैं स्कूल मास्टर के बेटे गरीब है? Is that a justification? Why do we buy those justifications? Because this is how the brainwashing happens, right? That he actually had a good reason. He might have done bad things, but bad things happen to him also. Baba, bad things happens to everybody. We all go through sangarshas in life. Every single person in the epic has gone through sangarshas in life. What determines whether you're good or bad? Going through all that you go through, do you leave your value systems or do you hold on to your value systems? That determines your character. That determines whether somebody is a hero or not a justification for a bad thing. And what kind of justification? Creating new stories to justify it. That is why when anybody tells you, I have written from this person's perspective, that person's perspective, pick it up, throw it in the garbage. Because how do they know this person's perspective and that person's perspective? Read it if you want to, but read it with a sense of discrimination that this is fiction. Enjoy it. We have in our Sanskriti allowed freedom of expression, and that has given rise to such beautiful literature. Enjoy it. Don't think it is true. Whenever you hear a new story, question. Because you will assume it from a position of Shraddha, not your younger generation. They will dismiss the entire Sanskriti as illogical and bakwas, with nothing for them. So always question, is this making sense? It might appeal to me, but is it in line with what I've heard? Is it really that Krishna is Bhagwan only because Pandavas won? Or there is more to it? So anyways, what is the Shakuni actual story? Actually, there is no story. It's actually very simple. Bhishma does not hide that he wants to marry Gandhari to Dhritarashtra, who's the blind son. He takes the proposal to Subal, who's the father of Gandhari. They think what to do. Subal makes a conscious choice to accept this proposal. You know why? Because Gandhar was a smaller kingdom and Hastinapur was way more prosperous. Wouldn't the father think the way Subal did? Andha hai to kya hua yaar? Baki he is good, comes from a good family. My daughter will be well taken care of. And Bhishma, what character Bhishma is? These stories make him sound like some bloodhound. Ye manglik ladki ke liye, what manglik? There is nothing of such sort also, okay? In Mahabharata. But what a graceful character Bhishma is. In the end, when Bhishma is lying on the bed of arrows, okay, and he's waiting for Uttarayan to give up his deha. The war has ended, and Yudhishthira has gone through this grief. He says, I don't want to become the Raja because it's because of me that my entire parivar has been destroyed, this, that. Eventually he's convinced to become the Raja and all that. And then Krishna tells him, there is one thing you have to do. The shining star of the Kauravas is going to give up his body now. There is no one today who understands dharma. There is no one as dharmavid as Bhishma is. Go and learn from Bhishma. Take all that you can from Bhishma. He has so much to offer. And Bhishma Yudhishthira Samvad happens, which is covered over 2 parvas. There are 18 parvas in Mahabharata. The Bhishma Yudhishthira Samvad is covered in 2 parts, Shanti Parva and Anushasan Parva. Okay, so if you see Gita Press wala Mahabharata, it has 6 volumes. Okay, every volume is about 2000 pages. The Yuddha ends in the 4th volume. The 5th volume is only Shanti Parva, only. It is the largest Parva of Mahabharata. And it doesn't end there, it continues in the Anushasan Parva also.
Is this the Vishnu Sahasranamam?
Yes. Yeah. So Vishnu Sahasranam is also a part of all the things that they have discussed. They have discussed everything from Raj Dharma, policy, administration, governance, leadership, Apat Dharma. What should you do in times of calamity? How should you understand Dharma to begin with? They have also spoken about Varnashram Dharma. They've spoken about Bhakti. They've spoken about Yoga. They've spoken about Sankhya. You name it. All that is covered. And for a man like that, such had vahiyat stories are told. Because the purpose is not to bring the message of Mahabharata as it should be, but it is to dismiss it as just another entertainment story. And it is okay, it can be entertainment story. ठीक है, कोई problem नहीं है उसमें. But remember that entertainment के लिए बहुत कुछ मिलेगा. These 2 books, Mahabharata and Ramayana, are not just stories. What are they?
Itihas.
What is Itihasa? Does it happen? And the definition goes, Purva Vrittam Katha Yuktam. Something that has happened in the past told to us in the story format, and why? Dharma artha kama mokshanam upadesham samanvitam, to give us the lessons of the Purusharth, to give us lessons for living our lives based on the lives of our ancestors. How will we take the right lessons? How will we understand our past better if we don't know our Itihas? And if we rely to learn our Itihas from fictional retellings? Now, one question I'll answer, which is not asked, but I'm sure many people think about it, and I'll end there and we will then have Q&A if anybody's interested. A lot of us have learned Ramayana from Ramcharitmanas, right? Ramcharitmanas is probably way more popular than even Valmiki Ramayana is, in the north and west especially. Similarly, in the south, there is Kamba Ramayana. There are versions of very beautiful kritis in Telugu of Ramayana. Same in the west, Kritipa Sojha Ramayana, way more popular than Valmiki Ramayana can be. Do these Ramayans have any place, is the question asked. Because very honestly, the Rama Chetana today is alive because of these retellings. So should we discard them?
No.
Then?
Study both.
Read Ramcharitmanas, Kamba Ramayana, all that, for its bhakti, for its rasa, for the bhav that they bring. They have their own place. However, to know Itihas, you have to refer to Valmiki Ramayana. What does it mean? If one incident is different in one versus the others, okay? What do you take from an Etihasic value? What will you take as an Etihasic value? Not a Shraddha or a Bhav value. Simple Ahalya story, which we started with. Which will have a more Etihasic value? Valmiki Ramayana. Any day. Same for Vedvyasji's Mahabharata. You read the other story. If it is making you feel good, Shraddha hai, Bhakti hai, padho, jo padhna hai, padho. Ras hai, padho. We don't have to discard anything. But this discrimination is important. You know why? Because Tulsidas ji, Kambaji, they wrote with a bhav of Shraddha. It was their service to their Ishta, to the Bhagwan, who they thought was their Bhagwan, who was their Ishta. But this is being used by anybody today, any other person, to say, I am writing Ramayana and every Ramayana is valid and my Ramayana is also valid. So what does happen? What happens because of that? Ram Ravan Yuddha is no more a Yuddha of Dharma Dharma. It becomes a war of Arya Dravidian. And that is also valid too, because everything is valid apparently. That is what they are telling us. Everything is valid. There is nothing like history. Every time Ramayana, Mahabharata written. So this time I want to write it that way. Because now apparently they have racial whatever proofs. Or it becomes some Brahman patriarchal thing where they forget that Ravan himself was a Brahmin. Right? Then how will you challenge unless and until we ourselves at least establish the source of truth from an Itihasic value? Everything else fine, padho, no problem. But don't let others make a narrative out of it. One. Second, to take life lessons, always go back to the Itihas. Because Itihas is way more profound than you can even imagine. And all your questions, trust me, all the questions that your children are asking, you will find the answers for them. Thank you so much.
Thank you.